Hey, 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 welcome back to the House of Trauma podcast. It is me, your favorite podcast host, Kiana Brienne, and I'm back with another episode. Now let's get into it. Okay, so I think for me, one of the hardest things, and I do mean the hardest things I have to, or I'm learning to do, is to forgive. But not just forgive others, forgive myself as well. And I'm realizing it's the unforgiveness that is truly keeping us trapped. I would absolutely be lying to you today if I said I mastered the art of forgiveness. No matter how understanding of a person I am, I have not mastered the art of forgiveness. I mean, I can think of at least 3 people right now, to this day, where if I see them, it's on motherfucking sight. And I mean that. Like, this is a Fendi fact. I mean it. If I see them, I don't know what may transpire because of the terms that we left off on. But I have to ask myself, why am I holding on to that energy? And I know this to be fact. If this person walked up on me right now, at this grown age, I will probably put my hands on them. And I just have to be honest. And that is not okay. No matter how much they tried me, because they tried, y'all. They tried your girl. It's not okay to be harboring that unforgiveness to the point where I don't know what's going to happen when we in the same room together. Now, I've always had this little motto, forgive but never forget. Like, I forgive you. We had a conversation. I forgive you. You did me wrong. Fine, I'll let bygones be bygones. But I remember what it is that you did. Because for some reason, my mind can't fully let it go. So then it begs the question, did you ever truly forgive? Yeah, you said you forgive. Maybe you're even on speaking terms. You can be cordial. You don't actively hate this person or are not actively angry with this person. Yet you never forgot what it is that they did to you. And I've always justified that. Like, I don't have to forgive. I know your track record. I understand who you are now as a person. And I'll move accordingly. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? But see, I keep account. I keep tallies, if you will, or tabs. I keep tabs of people who have mistreated me. Or people I have feel wronged me in any way. I mean, I can remember down to the very cent of every single dollar that has not been repaid. As far back as 2012, when I got my first job. Because again, forgive, but never forget. And I've obviously lived the bulk of my life in this manner of the forgive and never, but never forget motto. And it wasn't until a few months ago I realized how detrimental living in unforgiveness was. And God has been talking to me. He's been speaking to me for a while now about needing to forgive certain people, certain things that have transpired throughout my life, especially recently, in recent years. And I asked the Holy Spirit to help me in this walk because I've lived my life in such a way as forgiving but never forgetting, but honestly probably never truly forgiven at all, that I don't know exactly what steps to take. I don't know how to forgive, I guess. Some things are more easily forgiven than other things. And I know that I, myself, am holding on to some things that need to be forgiven. I.e., the reason why I can't even be in rooms with certain people, because it's going to go down. Okay? And, I hear people say you don't have to forget to move on. Like, you can forgive and not forget and still be able to move on. But don't you have to essentially forget? Now, I guess in a literal sense, your life will continue to move forward. Whether you forgive, whether you forget, or whatever. But look at it like this. Think of the last person that you feel wronged you, whether it was intentional or unintentional. Just take a moment and think of the last person you felt ever wronged you, whether it was intentional or unintentional. You thought of somebody, didn't you? So have you moved on? Have you truly moved on, though you said you've forgiven that person? And a lot of times the healing process is tricky because you think you've fully forgiven someone or a situation. You've moved on. It could be a week, a month, a year, 10 years down the line, and something may trigger you, and now you're upset all over again. So again, I ask the question, have you fully forgiven in order to move forward in your life? And don't get me wrong, it's difficult because you have to think about how that person made you feel. And if you were to see that person again today, how would you feel today? And I've personally forgiven people for things that they've done. And if I see them today, it just is what it is. As a matter of fact, I don't see them today. Sorry to this man. But then there are other people, 3 people to be specific, that if I seen them today, I don't know how calm, cool, and collected I could be. And I'm typically very calm, cool, and collected. But when you are living in the spirit of unforgiveness, you may act out or lash out in ways that you never intended to do because you were not in a space mentally nor spiritually to encounter this person again. And I would love to get to a space where it didn't matter what you did to me, intentionally or unintentionally. But when you walk in that room, I can still proceed with as much style and grace as I would with somebody who has never wronged me a day in their life. I read this book earlier this year. Amazing, amazing, amazing book. It's called The Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds. Naijima Smalls is the author. I'm sorry if I mispronounced her name, but in reading that book, and it covered a lot of topics, it was very eye-opening and a very great aid in my healing journey. So one of the chapters was called Forgiveness. And boy, oh boy, was I convicted when I read this chapter. I'm like, girl, let me find out. I've forgiven no one. Like, I'm not forgiving at all. Like, it was very eye-opening. One of the things she said in the chapter called Forgiveness is when you lack forgiveness, bitterness forms, and you become jaded about life. All of my healing work kept hitting a brick wall because I lacked forgiveness. So again, I'm working day in and day out to heal past traumas and emotional wounds. And I 110% related with her when she said she kept hitting a brick wall in her healing journey because of the unforgiveness. And a lot of things, when you're doing shadow work during your healing journey, a lot of things are going to come up. And we're so quick to pass them off like, okay, well, I'm not dealing with that. I'm over it. I'm past it. It's whatever. Like, I've forgiven them, whoop de whoop. But have you really? So I think to even understand what it means to live in the spirit of unforgiveness, we must first understand what forgiveness is in a true sense. Forgiveness is a noun, the action or process of forgiving or being forgiven. It's a conscious, deliberate decision to release feelings of resentment or vengeance towards a person or group who has harmed you, regardless of whether they actually deserve your forgiveness. So a lot of times we feel as though we've forgiven someone, but then again, like I said before, you come into contact with this person again, or this situation is brought up again, and it brings these emotions back on you. And it's like, have I forgiven at all? The truth is forgiving or forgiveness is a choice that we have to make over and over and over again every day. Many of us have been hurt in our past by someone that we felt let us down. And that type of hurt can change our ideas about life and who we are. But it's important to not let the person or the situation that hurts you control your emotions. And that's what I'm battling with every day. You have to be in control of your emotions. And the truth is, you have not forgiven that person or that situation if it brings negative emotions out of you in any way, shape, or form. And that's just the reality of the situation. And I'm telling you just as much as I'm telling myself that if this situation or this person still negatively affects you, you have not forgiven it. You are in the spirit of unforgiveness, and it's time to take control. So the reason why I feel like I'm having such a hard time forgiving certain people for certain things that they done, actually a few reasons. And we can start with, I wouldn't have done it to them. I'm not that type of person. And so it's a hard pill to swallow when you love someone and when you trust someone and they do you wrong. Like absolutely, terribly wrong. And it's just like, wow, this is the type of person that you are. I would have never, if the shoe was on the other foot, there would have not been an instance where I did you how you did me. And I think coming to that reality is what I really have a hard time wrapping my brain around. It's just like, damn, not you. Like, not you. I would have never in my life imagined you do me this cold. And that's one of the main reasons I have such a hard time forgiving certain people, because it's like, okay, if a perfect stranger did something to me and then we talked about it and it's just like, hey, well, I know you that well and it just, forgive me. Okay, all is forgiven, cool. We can move on, we can move forward. But when you spend years in relationship with someone, and I'm not just talking about a significant other, I'm talking about family, friends, lovers, whoever it is, when you have companionship with someone and y'all spend all these time together, y'all are creating these memories and you're creating this bond, and then they turn around and disrespect you, because that's what it is. When you do me wrong, it just shows your lack of respect for me. And that's where shit gets fucked up for me. For real. I don't know how else to fucking put it. That's where shit gets fucked up for me. When I have been there for you day after day after day, and then you make a conscious decision to do me wrong. And that's why I'm so quick to cut people off, truly. Because you know what you did. And it wasn't cool. And sometimes sorry isn't enough. But I still have to figure out what it is deep down inside of me to where sorry isn't enough. They apologize. I don't have to deal with you no more, but I can forgive and forget and move on. Yet I'm having such a hard time wrapping my head around that because, again, how could you do me like this? It's crazy. And I also take issue with people feeling like they can play me and get over on me. Now, I always get the last laugh. This is a fact. I do 99% of the time just let God handle all my battles, and he very much does. Karma don't have no deadline. So when people do me wrong, I don't like to take matters into my own hands because I know that God got my back. And what the universe will do to you, I couldn't even imagine doing it to you. So it's no reason for me to take matters into my own hands. But yet and still, I absolutely take issue with people feeling like they can play in my face. And because you thought you was cute, we will never be cool again. So I think that's where the not being able to be in the same room with people comes from, because we'd never be cool because you fucking tried it. Play with somebody else's daughter, not Tasha and not Tim. I'm telling you, people be really, 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 really trying me. And I guess I feel like I'm going to show you that you can't play in my face and get away with it. I'm just supposed to forgive you. And I've seen people like have relationships with other people and they just mistreat them and the person forgives them and then they come back and they mistreat them and they forgive them and come back. And you thought you was going to do that to me? I'm not one of those. You can't do that to me. Absolutely not. You get one time to show me who you are, and that's just what it is. I'm sorry. I'm not a strong believer in people changing. I believe that you are who you are. You can grow and evolve in certain ways, but in the deepest pit of your core, a monster is a monster. Prove me wrong. And that's why you don't get to mistreat me and then think you can come back into my life. The minute you made that conscious decision to mistreat me or do me dirty or speak ill about me, you made that decision to never be in relationship with me again. Quite simply put. I often I look back on different times in my life, different periods in my life, and, where I was in every level, mentally, physically, spiritually, financially. And again, like I said, for the last few months, the topic of forgiveness has been coming up quite a lot. And I just remember a time in my life where I was in a perpetual state of anger and anxiety and resentment. And I chose to shut out the world versus choosing to welcome in all the beautiful parts of the universe that would change my mind, that would change my outlook, that will bring in love and kindness and forgiveness. Because for me, I can remember every unkind word that was ever spoken as early as 6 years old, and maybe even earlier than that. And what's so strange is how we forget the kind words that were spoken. I can remember every dollar that was never repaid, but forget every dollar that ever was. So we have to ask ourselves, what reason do we choose, or does our brain choose, to make a cognitive decision to hold on to everything that is bad or traumatic or mean, yet we forget everything that was good or healing or nice? And maybe not everything, but I guarantee you'll remember more of the bad than you'll remember of the good. And I'm constantly reminding myself every day of all the good that has happened in this life. I'm constantly reminding myself of every day all the blessings and all the answered prayers that I'm living in this moment. Because it's very easy. It is so easy. Make no mistake. It is so easy, especially when we're dealing with the bad, to remember the good. And that's why I pray and I ask God to help me figure out how to unleash and forgive. And see, everything can be healed in some way, is what I believe. I haven't healed everything. Obviously, this is a continuous journey. But the spirit of unforgiveness produces anger and bitterness. And that's why it was a period in my life where I was so deep in the spirit of unforgiveness that I wouldn't allow God to open my heart to forgive certain things and certain people. But forgiveness frees you. It frees you from the burden of the pain. It frees you from the burden of the situation. It frees you from the burden of the person who you feel wronged you in the first place. And it's not just other people who have wronged you or wronged me that I haven't forgiven. Sometimes it's hard for me to forgive myself. We are our own worst critic. It doesn't matter who you are, where you are in life, what it is that you do or what it is that you've done. We are truly our own worst critics. And sometimes I make decisions and I later regret these decisions. And I don't regret a lot in life, but sometimes a simple decision, I'm like, you knew better, but you chose not to do better. And I will harbor on this one incident for weeks, maybe even months, depending on how detrimental I felt like it was to me. And I'm asking God to forgive me, and He does. And then I'm asking Him to help me forgive myself because I can't. And it's like, well, if God can forgive you, why can't you forgive yourself? And why can't you forgive others? And quite simply put, if I can put this as simply as possible, because it's hard and I don't know how. Like, there's no extra elaborate explanation for it. It's hard and I don't know how. And again, forgiveness releases a burden, releases a weight off your shoulders. And I have to look myself in the mirror every day and just say, Kiana, I forgive you. And I release all the things that don't serve me. And then tomorrow I might wake up and it's just like, how could you be so stupid? Like, how could you do this again? And it's just like, but you said you forgave yourself yesterday. So you have to truly find the forgiveness in your heart. Now, as I'm sitting here today, I can't really think of anything I don't forgive myself for now. Okay? It took me some time. It takes me lots and lots of time to forgive myself for the mistakes that I've made. But I've done it. And if something comes up tomorrow, which I don't think it will, but if something comes up tomorrow, then again, I'll make that daily conscious decision to forgive myself again, because at the end of it all, what's done is done. We ain't got no time machine. And a lot of times, even knowing what I know now with the mistakes I made, if I could go back and do it all again, potentially would do it all the same. I'm telling you, the last 28 years of my life, I would do everything the same because it made me who I am. It gave me the wisdom, the knowledge, the lessons to even share my experience with you, with the world. Because I'm only human, and as humans, we are going to continue to make mistakes. So if I can muster up the strength to do the hardest task, which is forgiving yourself, I know that somewhere inside of me, I can muster up the strength to forgive someone else. And the reality I also have to admit, I have to say this honestly and truly, is maybe sometimes we don't forgive people because we don't really want to. We just want to be done with them. But there's a reason we're still holding on and harboring that unforgiveness in our soul. Because like I said earlier, you thought you was playing with me and you had the wrong one. So I'm going to show you that you got the wrong one. But okay, Kiana, who are you really showing? You showing yourself. You showing God that you would rather hold on to this to prove a point. When yet again they play with the wrong one and now they have to live with that. Like you don't have to deal with that person, but you also don't have to hold on to it. And just like healing, forgiveness goes hand in hand and it takes time. So no one is saying, okay, they did you wrong today and you need to forget them tomorrow and get up and get over it, but truly be over it. Like absolutely not. But again, it's important for us to get up every day and make a conscious decision to try to move past it. So another thing that was mentioned in the Black Girl's Guide to Healing Emotional Wounds is when you think of this person or this situation and you get a negative feeling or negative thought about it, immediately try to switch it to a positive thought. Because 9 times out of 10, you're not going to harbor feelings of unforgiveness to somebody you barely knew. So replace those negative thoughts with the best memories you can think of about this person and give them the benefit of the doubt. So a real life example for me is I had to grow up and become an adult, and a real adult, and not just 18, in order to forgive my parents. Yeah. I absolutely had to forgive my parents for things that happened or that were said when I was growing up. And I'm not going to sit on here and act like my parents were absolutely terrible. They weren't. They loved me and I knew that. But they didn't always make the best decisions as it pertains to me and my siblings. And so I do have siblings to this day who, whether it's our mother or our father, they don't necessarily forgive them. And we still have conversations about how they truly feel about our upbringing. But for me, how I was able to eventually truly and honestly forgive my parents, I had to accept that they did the best they could for what they knew. And again, I know that they love me and nothing was intentionally meant to put me down or harm me or make me feel less than. So knowing that they truly loved me, that they did the best they could for what they knew, and that we all make mistakes and are growing day after day, year after year, I was able to extend them that grace that some of my siblings are not able to extend to them to this day. And again, we all have our ways of working through things. So whenever they find it in their heart to forgive, then they did that on their own time. And again, there is no timeline for any of this. I want to be clear. There's no timeline on forgiveness or on healing. But to get up every day and make a conscious decision to do so is super important. And Again, I love my parents. I love my mother. And I love my father. And I forgive them because I know they did their best. And that's it. I have to give them the benefit of the doubt. I have to offer them that grace. And it wasn't until maybe at 19 or 20, I want to say, 19 or 20, when I came to that realization, my relationship with my father grew like no other. My relationship with my mother continues to grow. And it started with one step, me making the conscious decision to give them the benefit of the doubt. Then making the conscious decision to extend them some grace. And when I think of things from my childhood now, as it pertains to my parents, it's just like, okay, well, yeah, it was fucked up. It was messed up. It was what it was. And that's just it, and that's all. And I pray that all of my siblings can find that same mercy and grace to extend to our parents as well. Speaking of grace and mercy, the Bible speaks quite extensively on forgiveness, especially in the book of Matthew. I love the book of Matthew, y'all. Like, it's just, I get the most gems. I get my most favorite scriptures from the book of Matthew. So, in Matthew chapter 6, verse 14, for if you forgive other people when they sin against you, your heavenly Father will also forgive you. Verse 15, but if you do not forgive others of their sins, your Father will not forgive your sins. Matthew chapter 18, verse 21 to 22. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you not 7 times, but 77 times. The Bible speaks of forgiveness in Mark chapter 11, verse 12, Ephesians 4:32, Colossians 3:13. I mean, the list goes on, and it speaks of forgiveness all the time. And at any moment in time, sins both known and unknown, if you get down on your knees and you pray to the Spirit of the living God, because God is surely alive, you pray to God and you ask God to forgive your sins, they're already forgiven. You don't have to offer up anything to God. You don't have to plead your case to God. God, I messed up. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Forgiven. So if Jesus, the most perfect being to ever walk this earth, can forgive you for simple human nature, why can't you forgive somebody else? Because truth is, we're no better than the next person. I'm no better than you. You're surely not better than me. And so on and so forth. We have to be kind and compassionate and even empathize in most situations. Because again, I don't like when people do me in ways I wouldn't do them. But sometimes, not only are we not on the same place in our healing journey, but people just process and do things differently. In one of my previous episodes titled Scared to Love Again, if you haven't already listened to it, I encourage you to run it back, okay? Run it back and listen to it to get the full context. But I spoke in-depthly about my ex, lover number 3, and how it took me a long time to truly move past all the deception that was in that relationship. And what finally gave me because we haven't been together for 3 years. So 3 years later, while I was finally able to truly forgive and even be able to move forward in order to accept and allow a new relationship into my life, I really had to come to terms and understand that this person acted out in this way for one reason and one reason only: them. Their problems, their lack of healing, their frustration. It had absolutely nothing to do with me. So while I'm upset because I'm like, I know you did not have the audacity to mistreat me this way when I did nothing but love you and treat you well. But it didn't matter. It didn't have to be me. It could have been the next person. Hell, it was probably the person before me as well. It had absolutely nothing to do with me. And so the sooner we stop taking things personal and just, again, accept that person for who they are. And I don't have to deal with this man ever again in life, and I won't. But it was important for my future to be able to move past and to truly, honestly, and truly forgive. Because for 2.5 years, I said I did. I said I was done with it. I was over it. It don't matter. We're done. We're through. But I wasn't done because I hadn't truly forgiven. But now I can sit here and say to this day, or this day in time, that I have no ill will towards him. We actually have spoken a few months ago. Now, I'm not in a space to speak to you every day. Please don't call my phone. Changing my number. No, but seriously, like, we are definitely in a better space right now. Like, I don't hate this person anymore. Because I did. Hate's a strong word, but it is what it is. I didn't want to be in a room with this person. I didn't want anybody to mention his name. But now you can mention it, and it's just like, okay. Who? He can be walking down the street and I wouldn't know a thing. But I'm not upset. I can be in the same room with this person and not feel shaded or jaded. Like, what I'm trying to say is, it's just so important. I cannot stress, okay, the importance of forgiveness for you. And it sounds cliche to say, oh, you're forgiven not for them, but for you. But it's a fact. Like, I'm living, breathing proof that I truly had to forgive certain people in my life that I felt like did me the most wrong in order to even be able to live my life in a good space. And the more I become aware of energy, and I realize just how prevalent and important it is, and I realize how everything and everyone is attached to energy, the less I want to hold on to anger and unforgiveness. I tell people all the time, every interaction, every conversation, every touch you have with somebody is an energy exchange. And if you're continuing to exchange negative energy by living in the spirit of unforgiveness, it's a waste of energy, a waste of good energy, if I may add. And I don't want to be in that space anymore. I want all of my energy to be wrapped around love. Love is the highest frequency in the world. And I try to live my life according to the law of love. But then on the other hand, I got all these people behind me that I'm holding on to the spirit of unforgiveness. And it's like, yeah, I'm going to give love to everybody in the world but y'all. Everybody but y'all. Because when I see you, it's on sight. It's just like, it's just not a good space to be in. I am making a conscious decision to actively work every day to forgive the people that I feel like have wronged me. Because regardless of why they did it, whether it was intentional or unintentional, the damage is done. And it doesn't benefit me. It doesn't benefit them. It doesn't benefit the world to harbor feelings of unforgiveness towards anyone. And the most important person in my life is me. So if there's anything that's holding me back from healing and become my best self, I want to stop that. I want to stop that right now. I would be lying if I said I mastered the art of forgiveness. The hardest thing for me to do in my life is to forgive, but not just others, to forgive myself. But I'm working on it. And I encourage you and welcome you to work on it as well. My name is Kiana Brienne, and this is the House of Trauma podcast. I'll see y'all next week.